Good evening. Thank you for joining us at the first Welcome to We show of 2026.
Thank you
Today
for
is
having me.
January 29th, 2026. There's so much going on in the world, as I'm sure everyone is aware of, the struggle in Minnesota, and they are in our consciousness, as well as across the country and across the world. But as you know, I'm Robert Levine. I'm the editor of Trends in Grassroots Global Organizing, which is the magazine of We the World. We the World, founded by Rick Olfek over 25 years ago, provides a vehicle for connection, interaction, and opportunity for unprecedented collaboration between people, organizations, and movements. We promotes a shift from I to we. You can get information on We the World by going to we.net, and you can look at the latest issue of Trends at trends.we.net. So we're looking forward to our upcoming issue to be released, which we're looking to do within the next week. It's running a little late. This should have been the last issue of 2025, but being an independent magazine, times things take a little longer than you'd like. So in the current issue, I'm very proud that we've included an article by our guest, Ysabella Lopez. Just for full disclosure, I met her taking a class on censorship at the Brooklyn Institute for Social Research. As part of the class, she mentioned this article that she wrote, and she shared it with me, and we wanted to publish it in the upcoming issue of Trends. So, Yisa, why don't I throw it to you and we'll get started? Why don't you tell us? Oh, let me first tell them about you. You're a multidisciplinary artist from Florida. Um, you're you are descended from multiple generations of immigrants, and your multicultural background has given you a unique perspective in your art and your writing. And that's at the core of the article that you wrote that's going to appear in Trends. So if you could speak about your article.
Yeah, well, first, thank you for having me. I love the mission behind we, and I think that the shift from I to we, from me to we, is incredibly needed right now. Um, my article is called I'm Not From Anywhere, which is kind of poking fun at the question, where are you from? Which is a question you get very frequently if you are racially ambiguous. And I think, yeah, it is for used very frequently. And I think when we are asking this question, there's always a sort of miscommunication on what we're actually asking. And it is an interesting experience to have. Being from multiple generations of immigrants, it can be a hard question to answer as well. And so this article was really me dissecting that and uh, just talking about it, putting it out there.
Well, it's the question resonated with me, which is why I love the article. Um, because growing up in New York, especially, I know you didn't, but I grew up in New York, where the first question anyone asks you is, where are you from?
Mm.
A very dear friend of mine who unfortunately passed away about 12 years ago, who grew up around the country, when he came to New York, people asked him, where are you from? He goes, I'm from Altoona, Pennsylvania. And they went, no, that's not what I mean. Where
Hmm.
are your ancestors from? He had no idea. He said,
Yeah.
England, Germany, Ireland. I have no idea. I've had similar experiences because the country that my ancestors fled from were persecuting them. So they did not identify with that country. So
Hmm.
in a sense, I really don't have a nation that I could say is my ancestry at this time. My ancestors wandered the world over the last few centuries. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, what your ancestral background is,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and about how this all affected you as you were growing up.
Yep. So my grandma was born in Korea a little bit after, like maybe a year or two after the war. My grandpa was born in Ireland. My great grandma, um, fled South Korea with my grandma and her siblings, brought them to England, and that is where she met my grandpa, who had immigrated from Ireland. So already they are two immigrants in this new place. My mom was born in England, um, and so that for her left a lot of confusion in how to identify herself because she came to America at 12 years old. So that's quite young in the grand scheme of things, but the core of who she is was based in England, even though she isn't necessarily British, or English fully. She's Irish and Korean. Um, but aside from that, our great my great grandmother remarried into an Italian family. So my grandma was adopted by an Italian man. And already now that's a lot of different cultures mixed. There's a lot of yeah, gray area there. So my grandma and my uncles and my grandma immigrated from England to Florida, and that is where she met my dad. My dad is from Central America. I'm not exactly sure where because he was adopted. However, the his adoptive mother um, did have a relationship with his birth parents, and so she was able to tell us that his father seemed to be from African descent, and his mom is of either Mayan, some sort of indigenous descent. So I would just classify that as Afro-Indigenous. I can't, it's been a struggle pinpointing which culture and which uh like tribe or group of indigenous peoples I belong to or descend from because I don't even know what country he was adopted from. But his adoptive mother was Mexican. So that is why my last name is Lopez. That is um somewhat of the culture that he was brought up in is Mexican culture. So yeah, my parents have very, very mixed backgrounds, lots of immigration, lots of adoption going on, and then also just complicated relationships with their own personal relationships with their culture because being refugee kind of makes, as you know, makes the connection to your home country tough and sensitive. I know my grandmother never really felt comfortable identifying as Korean, even though she was born there and is fully Korean. And so that was passed down onto my mom and has made its way onto me. Um, but I was born and raised in Florida. And so, like, who I am is very much American. I wouldn't say that, and because my family is so mixed, there isn't a lot of cultural traditions that can tie me back to my roots, my
Mhm.
actual blood roots. Um, and so while yes, I am this by blood, it's hard to be able to say that I truly am that because there were a lot of valuable cultural knowledge and traditions that I wasn't a part of. So the question, as I've gotten older, and also as I've been uh, pigeonholed into different labels of what I am, has really, yeah, really, really changed in my mind. And so, yeah, I wanted to address that. And I think that the current state of America and just the world in general, immigration is so common, and I'm very thankful for that. I think immigration, like the blending of cultures is amazing, and that's what makes a lot of these countries really great. But when we are asking someone, where are you from? It can be a very loaded question because there are so many things that come with ancestry, with um, your birth home, with citizenship, with uh, race, all of it. It's very it can bring up a lot of feelings, I think.
Right, because you do talk very effectively about your upbringing, especially when you spoke about how you'd go with your grandmother to the Korean market and the various foods you experience.
Hmm.
But you also speak about a darker side of when you were growing up, where people went as far as calling you a wetback.
Hmm. Yeah. And it the thing about that is it like I am not Mexican and I was born in America. And so it, I people would look at me, assume a thing. And so the things that I was bullied for, and middle schoolers are mean. And middle school is a hard, tough time. I think that
Yes,
it's, yes, like kids are just mean at that age, but the main things I was made fun of for was being Mexican and being Chinese, two things which I am not. So it hurt my relationship with the actual cultures that I am a part of. Um, Partially because I don't feel, and I think a lot of people who are so mixed or have complicated ancestral histories can feel this way, not being enough of whatever to fully subscribe or claim that title. Like not being able to fully say, I can't, yes, I am Korean, but up until I have started to heal my relationship with it, didn't know a lot about my ancestral background, didn't know a lot about the roots, and it's been very hard for me personally to get any sort of concrete information and do any sort of gene ancestry or genealogy regarding it because of the war and the way that things were documented and things like that. There's so many question marks regarding who I am and who my ancestors were. It can be hard to claim it, and then it makes it even harder when you are persecuted and uh, berated for these things as well.
right. And also, you would also talk about how even when you were older and even, dating and people would classify you a person of color. And, and so I guess for you, as I got from the article, what does that even mean?
Yeah, and I think that is, I mean, it is something that I think I'm still in the process of understanding and redefining and um, working with my relationship with myself in that regard because being mixed in my experience, I am enough to be exotic or be sought after for whichever that they see me as, but then not enough to be able to fully, again, claim it. So I was in a relationship with someone who genuinely did not see me as a person of color. They put it in quotation marks when they were addressing me as a person of color. Um, and I think when I think it gets into a very complicated conversation of blood versus cultural upbringing versus birthplace and how like the I guess the nature versus nurture in a way in a sense because I am a person of color. However, a lot of the cultural things I was brought up in are not related to any person of color at all. They are, as I said in my article, whitewashed. It is a very white American um, upbringing in a lot of ways. Yes, I was going to the Korean grocery store with my grandma, but then when we got home and she was eating her Korean groceries, I was making fun of her. I was calling the food stinky. I was not even understanding fully what she was eating and yeah, how important something as simple as like a buying of food from grocery store actually is to our heritage. And I think in my relationships, it's been this fine line and trying to navigate like the either being with someone who is completely ignorant to what I have like the actual racism and uh bullying I had faced for being a person of color, and then just not really understanding the culture I come from. And then I don't even understand fully the culture I come from. And then, but I know that I am this, and I know that they are ignoring a whole entire part of who I am. Or there's the person who does recognize me as a person of color, um, does understand what I've been through because they've been through it themselves, but still can't fully claim me in a way or make me feel like that is, I don't want to say fully validated, but they still perpetuate the same uh, issues that they have suffered from themselves. And so it's in my head, I've been trying to figure out, is it better to be with someone who is ignorant to it and truly does not know better, but wants to learn? Or is it better to be with someone who knows and understands this portion of you, but can't always escape like perpetuating the issue? So that
Right.
has been a tough point in dating for sure.
Yeah, because you also speak about how when people put a label on you, they expect certain kinds of behavior from you once they make
Hmm.
a decision of what your ethnic heritage is.
Absolutely. And I think like being so many things. I think in my personal experience, the one that has been the most digestible in a sense, is being Asian. And I think that when we are looking at the conversation of race and culture in romance and in dating, specifically when applied to women, Latino women are often crazy. They're wild. They have attitudes. They are whatever, controlling or whatever. And same, I think, with Black women. And then with white women, they are either more basic or they don't have, they're missing something. And then with Asian women, we are like, supposed to be, I guess, more submissive, more quiet, more agreeable. And so it, I do think that those stereotypes do kind of subconsciously drive us more than we think. I think it goes both ways. I don't think it's just men with dating women. I think it's also women dating men. And I think yeah, the romantic stereotypes of how whatever race is supposed to play into that relationship is kind of subconsciously played out more often than we would like to admit. And I feel I definitely noticed that in my relationships.
You also, and this is quite a brave article, you're really putting
Thank you.
yourself out here in this, and it's, again, very good. Everyone should
Thank you.
read it. in the next issue of Trends. Um, you talked about how you internalized racism. So if you could speak to that a bit too.
Yeah, it is a really hard thing to admit. I definitely have a very complicated relationship with my father. And um, yeah, you could say that I hated him at points. And so that's where I would say the internalized racism stemmed from. But I loved learning. Learned Spanish pretty young. I loved it. Um, like I was very open. And then as I went through life and I was bullied for different things, and then my relationship with my dad developed the way it did, I found myself going out of my way to reject these things. I would never eat Spanish food. I purposefully stopped speaking Spanish because I didn't want to be anything like my dad. I try to have my last name changed to my mom's Irish last name because I didn't want people to even know that I was Latina or had any sort of tie to Hispanic culture, Latin culture in any way, shape, or form. And then, yeah, as the bullying got worse, I think that I, it's, you kind of begin to hate yourself in a way. And yeah, I did internalize, I was just rejecting every single part of my culture, even with my Asian culture. It like felt safer to subscribe to my Asian culture because I wasn't as made fun of for that. But at the end of the day, the only thing that I wasn't made fun of was my Irish culture. And so that felt the most safe. And I think that it affected my relation, well, it absolutely affected my relationship with myself and with my friends and how I would talk about these cultures and how I would talk to someone else from these cultures. And I'm glad that I am able to recognize that that is what was happening now. I think it's incredibly unfortunate that that was my reality for so long. And I think it's unfortunate that that's a reality for a lot of people of color too. I don't think that a lot of us are realizing the way that we are internalizing racism and internalizing the persecution that we are experiencing. It can be a very subtle thing. It can be something as simple as not listening to a song because it's in Spanish, which I did, like not listening to Spanish music because I didn't want to support it in any way. Like it's it's a tough thing to reconcile with now because I missed out on so much because I was just rejecting that part of me. And I'm happy to be healing that within myself now. But I do think that it's probably something I'll have to work towards for the rest of my life. Because it is so deep rooted in like programmed into us.
Yes.
But I'm happy to be doing the work to um, reconnect myself to what I used to reject.
Because you do, and you've just touched on that. You do speak about how you are repairing the damage,
Yeah.
and that's by embracing your diverse cultural background.
And I think, yeah, repairing this has been a challenging and rewarding experience. Like I said, I do think I will be working the rest of my life towards this. But it's been, and I think I still have mixed emotions about it because there are still so many question marks in regards to my who I am, like truly like who my ancestors were, where I'm from all of that. Like there's so many question marks, and I think it's hard to be doing this healing while also knowing that there's a potential that I might not ever get these answers. Um, but the work, I mean, is just so freeing. And it started with um, cooking myself researching Korean recipes and cooking them for myself, going to Latin restaurants, going to different countries in Latin America, looking into the customs of Korea, like the tea ceremony and the shamanism that they have there. I've recently started learning to read Korean, which I'm very excited about. I've been relearning Spanish. I've also been doing research on the history of the Celtic people, and like learning about my Irish heritage as well, because even though I didn't reject my Irish heritage, I still don't really know that much about it. And I think, yeah, just really educating myself because unfortunately I can't get it through my family because they are just as disconnected as I am. But being able to research these things, engage with media from these countries, and travel to these countries and talk to people who are either mixed and have the same experiences as me, or are also from the same cultures I am from, has been very comforting. And I think that even though my experience is very common amongst people who are descending from immigrants and from people of color, and um yeah, people who have dealt with the same things that I have dealt with. I think that is actually more common than we think. I think that even people who have like generations of pictures of their family in their home still don't really know that much about where they came from and what culture their family was subscribed to and the traditions that were upheld in the home. So I think that it's worth it for all of us to be engaging with our roots in any capacity, whether it's talking to your parents, talking to your elders, or just any sort of trusted person in your family, or if you don't have a connection with someone in with your family like that, if you have any sort of idea or a clue of where they're from, just engaging, like just kind of following the thread of that and engaging with the culture in any way you can.
Right. Yeah, I did one of those ancestry things a couple of years ago
Hmm.
and found my genetic, that my genes go back to Spain and Greece and Italy, and there was some Polynesian. And
Mm.
I mean, we're all diverse.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of people don't recognize it, but we are. I mean, we all go back to Africa.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. We're all so diverse, and on top of that, I think that not every family systems are complicated, and not every family has really held on to the stories, the knowledge, the information, the pictures that would really ground us in who we are and where we're from and everything like that. I think, yeah.
right. Yeah, there are things I didn't know about my mother's family until years later because my grandmother wouldn't talk about them because it
Hmm.
was, a violent history
Yeah.
of her mother being killed and murdered during a war. And so these people at times, when it's traumatic, they don't want to talk about it, or over the generations, if it's not shared, people just don't know.
Yeah. And I think there's so much to take into consideration and so much to consider. And that like which brings me back to my opening thing is that there's so much to take into consideration and so much to consider when we are asking this question. And there oftentimes is a lot of pain wrapped up into this. I think
Mhm.
family is, like I said, a complicated, family systems are complicated, family histories are complicated. And then when you throw war and violence and colonialism into the mix, it gets even more complicated. It can be tough to identify with who you are, especially if who you are has been wrong or classified as wrong or the other, your entire life. And then that gets into the whole epigenetics portion of it all is these fears and this idea that you are the other or and all the trauma that comes with that is, it continues on through the family. And so I think it it makes ancestral roots tough
Right,
and ancestry tough.
right. Now you shared, when I asked you for some notes on your bio, you shared how your multi-ethnic background has been a boon to you in your creative work. Because you're a
Yeah.
photographer and artist, you do commercial work, and you've been able to use that, in a positive way.
hmm I think as I've gotten older, um, I start to look at my experiences regarding who I am, my culture, my race, and how I'm viewed in the world. I've started to kind of view it as I am able to kind of go between worlds in a sense because I have been in all these different cultures, all of these different upbringings, all of these different things. I feel I am not from anywhere. And that is freeing in a way. Like, I'm
Mhm.
not from anywhere, so I can really be from anywhere. If I am in Mexico, they're thinking I'm Mexican. When I'm in Japan, they're thinking I'm Japanese. If I'm like, I am able to kind of blend in and assimilate more with with people and just groups. And I think that it's allowed me to just find more connection, even though I'm disconnected in other ways. I'm able to, uh, yeah, I feel b build bridges between these separate things.
Do you have any websites we could share with our viewers where they can see your work, see your art?
Yeah, yeah. I have
So if you
my.
could share that with us.
You want me to just put it in the chat?
No, or you can just tell us.
Oh, okay. It's y dash s dash a dot xyz. And I haven't launched my newest project yet. I'm still in the process of it, but if you type in that same y-s-a.xyz/acts of preservation, you can kind of see a preview. And the first chapter of that work is exploring it's me meeting my grandma for, uh, I mean, I grew up with her, but when like I was little, very, very little, around 8 years old, she left the country. And so she was an anchor for me and a cultural anchor for me for so long. And then she was on the other side of the world. And so I didn't get to talk to her much. I didn't get to see her much. So um, it's exploring my first time seeing her since I was 15, 16 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, so 10 years later, 10 years of separation and almost complete silence. Um, and so it's a photo essay of getting to actually talk to my grandma as an adult and with a fully formed brain and with everything that I have now, like getting to reconnect with her and getting to explore who I am through that. So that's the first chapter of this next project, and that's on a separate page of my website.
Great. Well, we look forward to looking at your work, also to hearing more from you.
Thank you.
I'm hoping perhaps you can contribute other articles to trends.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to.
And I want to thank Brigitte Benalai for helping us to do the show tonight. Brigitte, thank you so much. We appreciate you. And just want to thank everyone who is viewing the show tonight. And remember, check out We the World at we.net and take a look at Trends magazine at trends.we.net. So thank you once again and have a good evening.
Yeah, thank you so much, Robert.
Oh, you're most welcome. Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.